So if you're a fashion brand and you're wondering the best way to run your ads in 2026 and beyond, be sure to watch this video because I'm going to cover everything from how to set up the campaigns, the insights to draw from them, also the types of creatives that work really well, everything top to bottom, everything that I've learned over the last several years, basically over half a decade of experience in Facebook ads for fashion brands specifically. I'm going to get into everything and I'm not going to hold any single thing back. So stay tuned. Okay, so over here, I'm not going to name the fashion brands. I'm going to keep them private, but I have two of them that I'm going to go over. And so here is the first one. I'm just going to filter all of the campaigns that I have worked on, which is this one, and also this one. And if you look at this over here, we have a bunch of campaigns that basically go on. So we have complete registration campaigns. There was one that I ran in Black Friday. There was another one that I ran that was like an Evergreen campaign. And there's another one that I ran, which is an Instagram profile visits campaign. And then another one that I ran, which is a Creative Sandbox campaign. So I'm going to get into each and every one of those campaigns one by one. So first, let's start with the Creative Sandbox campaign. And so this particular client of mine, they pretty much run drops. And so whenever a drop would come around, first it would be a hype season, and the hype would come around, let's say for a week, or let's say a week and a half. We would hype them up pretty much for 7 to 15 days. And then after that hype season, and pretty much during the hype season, we have all of these different things going on. So you would have giveaway offers, they would have posts, at risk of revealing the client here. Let me just... Okay, so I'm gonna show you an example of what it looks like to have a hype campaign all the way leading up to the final drop day. So watch this. Let's go into this one. So first we have a hype campaign. And this hype campaign, essentially, what it does is that you would basically give people a teaser. It's kind of like a trailer. If you're releasing a movie, you would pretty much have this as the trailer on like, this is upcoming, stay tuned for this. It gives people a reason to be in the waitlist too. So if they see this, they're going to want to follow on the Instagram. So right over here, they're going to click the follow button so that they can stay tuned there. Or they would go into the website directly. So you would have this in your bio and then they would click on this. And then when they click on this, you would have some sort of landing page that just says, hey, you've got 10% off your first order, put your email here, put your number over there, whatever way, shape, or form it takes. And so you would have that. But essentially, you would have this hype campaign in the beginning. So you run this campaign and you can optimize for one of two things. So one thing is you can go for engagement. Another thing you can do is to optimize for purchases. But keep in mind that there are people in your fashion brand who, even if you don't show an ad, even though if you don't run it, they would still pretty much buy. And so one thing you need to really keep in mind is that don't chase the vanity metrics of, oh my God, I have a 50x ROAS in this campaign. Because the thing is, you want to look at your store's ultimate revenue, the conversion lift pretty much, not just the ROAS that you see in your ad account. Because if you just run these campaigns, like for example, let's say this traffic campaign that was run, if you look at these traffic campaigns, for example, you might be saying, holy shit, like they got the 250x ROAS. That's an amazing thing. Like this one's 253.53, 190.81, 84.94. And yes, that looks like a solid vanity metric that you can brag about. But the issue here is that this spent $37. This spent $54. This other one spent $300. And so are you really achieving scale? Are you really getting new customers? Are you really growing the brand? Or are you basically showing these ads to people who would have otherwise bought from you? And so exactly, like if you look at this conversion value, it's great, but it's not that high. Like this is 10K, this is also 10K, this is 30K. And so if you're working with a brand that's supposedly getting like 150K in a drop, 200K in a drop, this is not really contributing to the overall growth of the brand. So maybe if this was doing 150K, then that would be great, but it's pretty much not. This is only doing small numbers. And even though the ROAS is really good, you're not really getting any real conversion lift or growth from this. And so you need to be wary by having vanity metrics by just looking at your ROAS like that. So how do you really grow a fashion brand? Well, with the ads, especially if you're at the ad stage already, you have to make sure that your ads are getting new customers in and it's actually driving real growth into it. Let me get back into this hype example right here. With this hype example, make sure to always exclude, always exclude existing customers for the most part, okay? Because existing customers, like if you have existing customers, they are on your email list, they are on your SMS list. If they are a loyal fan of the brand, then they are already pretty much in the SMS, they're already in the email, or they're already following, or if they're not on all of those three, the algorithm pretty much, since it showed this stuff before, the algorithm might already just be, pushing that content to them, maybe even if they haven't subscribed, just because they've bought the stuff before, they liked it, they commented, they engaged. If that's the case, why would you spend your ad dollars into retargeting them again? Or at least if you do that, you can have a separate ad set or a separate campaign that's more for retargeting. But you don't want to put the majority of your budget into retargeting because you're spending dollars. And if you think about retargeting doesn't necessarily always have to come from the Facebook ads or from the Instagram ads. You can have retargeting from SMS, email, and from organic, from some of these other sources. If they're a loyal fan, why would you spend so many dollars trying to spend on them? Ideally, what you want to do is you want to focus on people who have engaged with a Facebook page, or people who have engaged with your Instagram profile, people who have perhaps visited the website but are excluded with a custom audience of existing purchases. And when you do that, not only are you saving your ad dollars, but you're redirecting your ad dollars to a more profitable source. And it's a source where they're kind of in the middle, but you're giving them that extra nudge to engage with you more so that they take the first step and then they eventually become a loyal fan. So again, you want to target engagers, but not necessarily people who are super spenders or let's say existing customers, because again, you have all of these other sources that you can use. And so first you're going to start with that hype campaign. So I already showed you the hype campaign and what it looks like. Let me just go into it again. So yes, with the hype campaign, you're hyping people up. It's available next week. It's going to drop on this day, on this time. Call to action is join our email and SMS list for early access. And so ideally, yes, you want to get people to follow. You can have separate creatives for that. But ideally, you want to bring people into the list. And the reason why is because you have way more control over that piece of data. And yes, you want them to follow, of course. But if you can get them to sign up to the SMS list, then SMS has a way higher activation rate than both of those other sources. So email and also just them being a plain follower. Ideally, you want them to be in all three. So they're a follower, they're also in your email list, and they're also in your SMS list. And so if you have them in all three of those places, you have multiple touch points. You just have multiple touch points to get them to engage. And when you do that, you just increase the likelihood that they remember to buy from you and they eventually buy. So of course, you don't want to be an annoying prick, but at the same time, how will they know to buy from you if they don't buy from you in the first place? I mean, how will they know to buy from you if they don't even know that the sale is going on, or if they don't even know that the collection is going to come out? So basically in your hype campaign, what you want to show here is, yes, a trailer. You want to show a sneak peek into what people would be able to expect once the drop happens. So what will they be able to get? How can you excite them? This can be a video. This can be a carousel like this. Typically what I've seen is that videos and carousels work the best in order to gain interest. And so with a carousel, you're able to show all of these different clothing pieces in, slide by slide by slide. And if you have a drop coming, it's very, very difficult to cram all of these different things into one single slide. And so ideally what you want to do is you want to break this down slide by slide by slide so that you can show, first of all, you're increasing engagement over there. And second of all, you're also giving Facebook or you're giving Instagram, the space to put all of your products there and your customers don't get overwhelmed by seeing so many things at once. And so that's that. And then you want that call to action over here. You want to also prompt them to engage, to comment, to do all of those things there. And a typical thing that I've noticed is that a lot of the clients that I work with, they have something that says comment below, do this, we're going to give you a free item, we're going to give you a giveaway, if you win this, we're going to do that. And that's basically an Alex Hormozi $100 million money model attraction offer. That's a mouthful to say, but essentially what you're doing is you're getting people to engage, you're getting people to be excited, you're getting people to comment this and this and that, you're giving people all of these reasons to comment. And so the algorithm would naturally push it to more and more people because they see that all of these people are commenting on it. People get excited. And of course, even if there's a very low likelihood that someone would win, like out of these thousands of comments, it's still it's going to take 10 seconds to comment. And so why wouldn't someone just comment so that they get that tiny chance to get a $200, $250 item? It's like, why wouldn't they? And so right after that, you would continue hyping it up with like a static image, another carousel. Also in your story posts, you can mention it as well. Like, we have this coming up, like saying our website's going to open up to the public. And if your website is on for the whole time, like if you don't close it, that's also perfectly fine. But just make sure that you're mentioning that this will be available on this day, on this time. Like, you really have to be specific. Because if you say, we're going to be available next week, then of course they wouldn't know. Like, they're going to be guessing, is it Friday? Is it Thursday? Is it 2 p.m.? You want people ideally to be waiting as if it's an Olivia Rodrigo freaking concert. Like, you want your customers essentially to be waiting like it's a Taylor Swift concert. Like, on their laptops, multiple devices, getting ready to buy, afraid it's going to be sold out. So that's ideally what you want for your fashion brand. You want people to be hyped up. You want them to be, in a way, almost anxious, anticipating the moment that the drop's going to happen because they're just so excited about it. And so you have that. that. You can also do videos. So this is an example of a teaser video that could work really well. You would just show that video, it would display it, and then of course early access codes. If you have that, by the way, like this is a potential thing that you can do for your clients. An early access code would be giving people a reason to go on the wait list. And so there are multiple different incentives, but people in general are really averse to giving away their personal info. So giving your email, giving your SMS, giving your phone number, why would you give it to some random stranger on the internet? Like there has to be a very good reason for you to give it. And so typically, if it's going to be like a wait list, you have to give people a VIP experience. So whenever you have a drop, you can give them early access so that the benefit is one, they feel special because, oh my God, I have access and everyone else doesn't. But a second thing too is that you can give them the opportunity to buy so that they don't have to rush during like the website rush, and they have peace of mind to know that they're not going to run out of stock and they're not going to be able to buy it. So in return for all of these incentives that you're giving them, you can also give them like priority shipping, free shipping, etc. You can give a lot of these things to people who are on the wait list. And the benefit that you get in return is that the more touch points that they have, that they give you on email, on their phone number, and their following list, etc., the more touch point that you have with them, the higher the likelihood that you would be able to get your message across, and the higher the likelihood that you stay top of mind. So it's a very, very, very important thing that you do. And then right after that, all of these campaigns essentially, again, they would either be one of these three things. Either you have a lead generation hype campaign, that's one. A second thing would be an engagement campaign. So again, you want to maximize the engagement, not just with the people who currently engage with you, but also far beyond that. You want to build hype with someone who hasn't even, let's say they don't even know about the brand, but they're like, oh, what is this? This looks really, really interesting. So you want to generate engagement that way. Another thing you can do is you can optimize directly for purchases. And so I did that a lot before. I don't typically do that a lot anymore for hype campaigns. And the main reason why is because if, for example, your website's open, let's say, and you optimize directly for purchases, they wouldn't necessarily know like, oh my God, what's going on? Like they go there, you're optimizing for purchases, but the items aren't available. So you want to shift that. You don't want your hype campaign to be optimizing directly for purchases, but instead you want to optimize for generating leads or generating awareness or generating buzz, which is one of those three things. And I would recommend either just any one of those three. So yeah, you can't go wrong with it. The main thing though is that you really have to hype people up with your creative and with your offer, because again, a lot of these is in the visuals. And so yeah, let's go into some of these other ones. There we go. So now it depends. Like you can go with whatever style you have for your business, but essentially what you want to have is you want to have a video, you want to have a carousel that goes up, and your carousel or your video basically says, this is now live. You can get it right now. Here's a discount. By the way, don't give discounts if you have a premium or luxury brand. If you don't have that, then give discounts. And then you can also give offers to like, if you get, the first 50 orders gets this, the first 100 orders get that. You can also value stack and put a lot of these other offers here to get people excited to buy. And so you want people to really be hyped up to buy, not because you're manipulating them, but of course it's to keep it exciting. So it really depends on the kind of vibe or the kind of message that you want to get across for brands. But yeah, this is pretty much what you want to go for. And that's it. So when you have this post up, you want to optimize directly for purchases. Now, it's best when you have all of these campaigns, it's best to use an existing post in your ad because there's multiple ways to set up your ad. One way to set up your ad is to have a manual post like this. And so a manual post is you click this one in the ads manager, you have create ad over here. And if you click create ad, you would have the option to pretty much generate a primary text. You can type out the primary text. You can type out a lot of these other things. You would have the option to upload the ad directly from your computer from your phone. Actually, not from your phone, from your computer, from your laptop. But the main issue with doing it from a create ad standpoint is if you do that, then you're not going to be able to generate engagement and keep it there long after the ad is paused. So if you ever pause this ad in the future, all of the engagement will pretty much be lost because it's a dark post. So if it's a dark post, it's lost. You wouldn't be able to see it. So if your prospects essentially would go into your profile, they would be able to see the likes, the engagement, the comments. And if you constantly have dark posts going up, then everyone who wants to buy, they wouldn't be able to see it. And so they would just think, this brand has nothing going for itself. And so as much as possible, you want to generate that social proof by having the engagement show up. So don't use dark posts as much as possible. Use existing posts over here. And so with these existing posts that I have over here, you're going to notice that it's like this. It has the post ID, it has the primary text, it has the URL, etc. You have all of these things going on. And so when you have this final thing here, you have this existing post. Make sure, by the way, that if you're going to use a carousel, your carousel must not not exceed 10 slides. Because if your carousel exceeds 10 slides, then you're not going to be able to have an existing post. It's going to show an error. For whatever reason, Meta doesn't allow it. If you have a carousel as a post here, it goes like 12 slides, 11 slides. If you try to use it as an existing post, you're going to have an issue. So make sure as much as possible you keep your carousel less than 11 slides. So keep it to 10 slides so that you can use it as an existing post. Because if you don't, then you're going to have to upload these carousel cards one by one, and it's really, really annoying to do so. And so yeah, that is pretty much it on the Creative Sandbox. The way that I have it set up is that I pretty much have one big CBO. So I have a campaign budget optimized campaign. And what that basically does is that I have all of these ad sets in place, and then basically I can duplicate an ad set. I can change it to whatever drop it is. So for example, one would be the anniversary ad set. Another one could be a hype ad set for a certain season, or the May drop, or the Black Friday ad set. And so when I have this, if I have two ad sets running simultaneously, they wouldn't be competing with each other in the auction. And so there's a big debate on what happens with like ABOs versus CBOs, but it's pretty simple. ABOs, you have different ad sets and all of them have dedicated budgets. While CBOs would have one big campaign, and then with the CBO, you have several different ad sets, but all of them are sharing the same budget. Now, the main debate right now is, should I go with an ABO setup or with a CBO setup? And the answer to that is 99% of cases you should run CBOs nowadays, but I'm going to explain why. So the main reason why you want to run CBOs nowadays is because even though you have a really good creative, and let's say, oh, I want this video to spend this amount because I know it's going to do well. So both of those creatives that you're split testing, assuming that they have the exact same objective, to get purchases, to get engagement, to get leads, assuming that they have the exact same funnel stage, like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, you want to keep it in the same allocated budget, because at the end of the day, Facebook really does know what is best. And if you don't believe me, I can show you the Evolve course right here. So if you look at Evolve, and pretty much the best Facebook ads course there is for fashion, for pretty much anything else, is the Evolve course. They basically charge $1,500 per month to get access to this course. Several times, the owners, Spencer and also Sean, they have tested this several times. If you get a really good creative and you're like, oh shit, I'm smarter than Facebook, this is gonna really work if I isolate it. If you get that creative and if you isolate it in its own budget, you're going to 9 times out of 10, I would even argue 9.9 times out of 10, you are going to not get better results than if you just kept everything in a consolidated budget. So if you have a campaign, for example, that's not getting the best results, you can look at the top spender, you can pause it if it's not meeting KPIs, and then eventually maybe the ones that aren't spending as much would get spent, and then that would work that way. But if you just isolate that creative into something else, 9 times out of 10 it just doesn't work, and it would just be much better if you combine everything in one place. And so that's really important to know. So you have a CBO setup over there, and then you would pretty much be looking at the entire funnel stage from end to end. So you would be looking at how much is it for a click, how much is it for a landing page view, how much is it for an add to cart, how much is it for a checkout, how much for a purchase. And also you want to set up your campaigns like this. So if you look at the columns, pay very close attention to the types of columns that I'm setting up here. So I'm going to go pretty much from left to right. So you have, this is very important to know. Let's start from here. You have the impressions column, the CPM, the link clicks, then you have the CPC, then you have the CTR, then the landing page views, cost per landing page view, cost per add to cart, then add to carts, cost per checkout, initiate checkouts, cost per purchase, total purchases, total purchase conversion value, then amount spent, just so it's easy to view. Then you have the budgets over here so you can easily adjust it. Then you have the purchase ROAS to see how profitable it is. Then you have the average purchase value, which is essentially the average order value. And then you also have the purchase rate per landing page view. So you basically have the total conversion rate of the website. And so it's very important to have everything broken down like this. And if you do that, you're going to have a clear bird's eye view on what the hell is going on. So if you have a low ROAS, you can easily go through all of these one by one to see what is the bottleneck over there. But that's essentially it. And so I have a couple of other campaigns that I want to cover. So I covered the Creative Sandbox. I'm going to cover now the Instagram follower campaign. I'm also going to cover this Black Friday one. And there's another one over here, the Evergreen one. And so yes, I just covered the Creative Sandbox campaign, but now let's cover Instagram followers, Black Friday hype. These two are basically the same, but I'm going to get into it. So we're now going to go into the Instagram follower campaign. It's a very important campaign. Ideally, you should have this set up constantly. Like this should be perpetually running all of the time. And I'll explain why. So this Instagram follower campaign, essentially what you want to do here is you want to get all of your best performing top of funnel introductory pieces of content. And you have all of those and you funnel them to the Instagram profile. So if you can imagine this, let's say if you have an existing post over here, you have a hype campaign. Ideally, you want an evergreen campaign for this. So you have an evergreen campaign, and what you're going to do with the evergreen campaign is you will literally copy the link of this. So it's www.instagram.com/your-brand-handle, whatever it is. You're gonna get that and you're gonna use that as the target. Unfortunately, right now, Meta Ads does not have the option for you to directly optimize for followers. And I really wish that was the case, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And so the best thing that you can do is you can set up a traffic-based campaign object, which is you optimize directly for traffic. So let me just open this right here. You have buying type auction, you have campaign objective to be traffic, and then you're directly optimizing for traffic to go over there. And so I'm gonna go into the ad set level to show you what it looks like. Conversion location is Instagram or Facebook. Then you have maximize number of Instagram profile visits. And so what you have here is that your performance goal, what you're basically telling Facebook is, I want the most amount of Instagram traffic profile visits as possible. I want the most amount of views possible directly to my Instagram profile. And so again, I wish that we could optimize directly for follows, but unfortunately we don't have the option to do so. However, on Facebook, the good news is that on Facebook, there is an option to optimize for Facebook page follows. So if you're growing your Facebook page, you can do that. But most of the time, like Instagram is where most of the younger people, like usually older people, don't buy as much on like fashion brands. It's just based on my experience. But if you have that, if you want to grow your Facebook profile or if you want to grow your Facebook page, then just make sure that you use the Facebook page follow objective. But ideally, you want this to be an evergreen setup, that it constantly runs again and again and again so that you constantly attract new people. And so what it looks like over here is that you have this set up, you have like a carousel, or you have all of these things pretty much set up like that. And then you have the target. The call to action cannot be changed over here. This is visit Instagram profile. If you imagine what this looks like, someone would click on this. They would be redirected to go to this page. And so ideally, if they like that content, what they're going to do is they're going to go here, they're going to go into the story highlights, they're going to go into your pinned content, they're going to just do a quick scroll down to see all of these cool things. And if they like the vibe, if they go to like the website, they see like nice stuff, what they're going to do is they're going to click the follow button because they're basically going to have an expression of interest. In order to maximize the chance that someone's going to follow your Instagram profile or your Instagram page or your brand profile, what you just need to make sure is you have to wow them like crazy with the stuff that you have going on. Number one is the vibe check when I land on your Instagram profile. So when you have all of this, when they look at the ad, they have to just be wowed by how amazing it is. They have to be piqued. They have to believe in what your brand believes subliminally based on just looking at it, feeling it, hearing the audio, especially if it's a video, they just go through it. They instantly have that wow factor and they just want to learn more about you. Then they click on you, then they go to it, and then they just say, wow, I really like this. I really like what they have going on, and I want to see future stuff that they want to have. If you can evoke that emotion on like, holy shit, these guys are doing amazing stuff here. If you do that, you will get follow. And so you need to be value first. You have to be constantly thinking about the prospects, about the people who would buy from you. You would have to think about stranger and prospective customers. How can I wow them with value? How can I wow them with visuals? How can I wow them with stage 5 identity marketing? And so if you think about this, by the way, if you think about market sophistication in this sense, we have a couple of different models, but I'm taking this model from Eugene Schwartz. And so stage 5 identity marketing for sophistication. If we go into these 5 stages of sophistication, your market is pretty much going to be at level 5. And so you're going to be competing on storytelling. And even Ryan Reynolds says this. So if you look at a talk that Ryan Reynolds did at a content conference, he was basically saying that storytelling ultimately is the king at stage 5 sophistication marketing. So if you have a special fabric or a special thread or a special material or a special whatever, if you have a fashion brand that is like that, you most likely will be competing on level 3 or level 4 sophistication level marketing. So it's going to essentially be, yeah, we have better fabrics, this is how we make it, it's durable, it's indestructible, whatever. But if it's not something that can be distinguished by level 3 or level 4, then of course you're going to be competing on the visuals, on the storytelling, on the emotion, on what your brand represents and what it stands for. And so ideally, you want to have a fashion brand, you want to have a profile, you want to have visuals, and you want to have branded elements that go together in one place that basically says, this is what we stand for, this is our vibe, follow us if you want to come along for the journey. And so this is what you want to evoke in order for you to get follows. And again, like what I said before, if you have follows, if you have an SMS list, if you have an email list, the more touch points you have, the more points of activation you have in order to get people to buy. And so not only will you increase your cohort retention rate, but you will also increase your brand engagement, the size, your AOV might just stay the same, but your conversion rates would be higher because you have a more engaged fan base. It's going to your landing pages. Pretty much everything will go crazy. Your lifetime value will also skyrocket if you do this. And so Let's see. That is it for the Instagram follower campaign. Now I'm going to get into the Evergreen complete registrations campaign. And so what this campaign essentially is that you're getting people to sign up to your waitlist on your landing page. If I open this up, you will see that the campaign objective is leads. You will see that the ad set, if you go into the ad set level here, it's 18 to 65. Yeah, you can keep it broad. I'm excluding. Very, very important that you exclude existing customers from here. I mean, of course, existing customers wouldn't be able to fill this in. I mean, they wouldn't want to, because who would want to fill it in if they're already in the freaking list? So they wouldn't have any incentive to really go there because they're already in the list. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to optimize for a conversion event of complete registration or lead, whatever you have in your landing page. So if you have a website that is closed, then your website may look like this. If your website is closed, you're going to have something that says sign up to join our waitlist. If your website isn't closed, it's very, very important that you have a dedicated landing page where you can send the traffic over to there, and then you have the traffic going there, you have them optimized, or you have the ad optimized for complete registration, and then you start collecting those leads as you go along. And so very, very important that you do that. And the reason why, this thing actually occurred to me, and it's so crazy. So 6 years ago when I started Facebook ads, I was running it for fashion brands and all of these other brands. It never occurred to me when you do this. If you have a wait list, it's very, very important to have an evergreen campaign where you're collecting leads constantly. It's very, very important that you do so, because if someone was a complete stranger to your brand, then why would they have a commitment? So why would Facebook be optimizing for strangers, like complete strangers who don't even like you, if you have a complete registration event as your optimization event? Because of course, Facebook wants to make you happy. Facebook wants to give you as many of those events as possible. So if you have a complete registration event, something like this, then Facebook, especially, it's not gonna go, I'm gonna show you this one over here. I have excluded people who have purchased before. So you're not gonna have people who are already on the list. You're not gonna have people who already bought. But at the same time, you're not gonna have complete strangers who don't even like your brand or don't want anything to do with it. Facebook's gonna find you affinity audiences who are not on the list, but who are willing to make the micro commitment to follow along the journey of your brand. Because it's not like they're buying right away. You're not asking for a sale, but basically what you're asking for is, hey, if you have this email list, we're gonna give you all of these VIP access things and perks in return. And also, we're gonna give you gentle reminders to buy, if you ever need it in the future, if you ever want to buy it in the future. And so you're basically finding affinity audiences to the ones that you currently have. And when you do so, you're constantly expanding your customer base bigger and bigger and bigger so that you have a higher mass. And so you would have more people. When drop day comes and when you have the offer and when you're ready to release, you're gonna have a way crazier amount of people who are willing to buy from you right away. That is actually it. So it's very, very important to have a complete registrations campaign. And when you do so, you're gonna be expanding your brand. So now I'm gonna get into the other client. So now I'm gonna be looking at another brand that I have access to over here. So this is November 1st and it's all the way to the 9th of January, which is today. And looking at all of this, we have a 9.79 ROAS, 30K in spend. So it's not the highest level of spend yet, but we're getting there. We're shooting basically for $4 million this year in 2026. But yes, so we have $293,000 in conversion value. We have 2,269 sales, $13 per purchase. You have all of these metrics pretty much that I'm showing over here. And so the way that I have this set up is that I have it as an existing post and also some manual uploads. And the main reason why is because some of those influencers were posting on TikTok and we had to grab them and post it manually and we couldn't do an existing post. But ideally, you want to have it set up so that's always an existing post. And with this, the previous agency was running it as an ABO, so I didn't want to change too much of it. But yes, I kept it as an ABO, and every time we have a new thing here, we just introduce more and more stuff over there. We introduce more and more content. And so at the moment, we're not increasing the budget because we're out of stock. So we're going to get more stock first. We're going to keep this stuff stable, and then we're going to increase things from there. But the main learning that I had from this brand, I'm going to keep it very short, is that the main learning that I had from this brand, so this brand that you're seeing here made 109,000 in sales in a single day, and that was during Black Friday. And so we did way better than the last agency that managed it. But yes, 109K. If you look at month to date, $77,000, so $65,000 basically within the first week of January, or for the first 10 days of January. And then if I look at the month from November 1st to December 31st, yes, this is Black Friday. But in the span of 2 months, we basically almost hit $1 million in revenue in gross sales. So if you look at that, that's pretty much $450,000 to $500,000, $500,000 every single month in revenue. And I was really wondering, like, what is the secret to getting high amounts of sales? Like, is it the ads, the creatives? What is the exact metric that you have to optimize for? And it's a metric that nobody really thinks about. It's a metric that's a very hidden metric. It's a secret metric. When I mention it to brands, they don't even know what it is. And it's not exactly word of mouth. So word of mouth is very important, but it's something else. It's not necessarily AOV. It's not necessarily ROAS, because you could have a high ROAS, but it's a ROAS that could decline over time if your brand isn't good enough. And so a very important statistic, a very important metric that you have to look at constantly, it's none other than the 12-month customer cohort retention rate. And so all you have to do is go into your Shopify and then type customer cohort analysis. So you would be able to find it over here in your reports. So if you go into your reports, you would be able to find it over here. Let me try it if I open it from analytics. So here I am in the analytics page. What you're going to want to do is go to the bottom. You're going to find it over here. Customer cohort analysis. Very, very, very important metric. You click on this and now you're going to be able to see the last 12-month customer cohort analysis. January, February. What do all of these numbers mean? Basically, what these numbers represent is what percentage of customers that bought from me 12 months ago are still engaged up until now. So, of course, you have all of these customers here, like 11,718 people from all of these cohorts. If we look at the people who bought from us in total, how many of them are still buying after 12 months? How many of them? And so if we look at this, if we look at the very last figure here, this figure will be able to tell you whether your brand is dying or whether it's thriving. Here's a rule of thumb. Try to maintain a customer cohort rate of higher than 2.5%. Very, very important. The higher this number is at the 12-month, basically month 11, which is if you get the delta from month 0 to month 11, it's basically 12 months after. If you look at that delta, the higher it is, the better. The 12-month customer cohort retention rate, or the customer cohort analysis, this metric represents basically how many customers still love you, how many remember you, how many still care about you, how many are still buying from you 12 months later. It's a very, very, very important metric. What percentage of them are still buying? Because basically, you have a fashion brand and you get your mom and your dad and your friends to buy it. And sure, they might buy it one time, but it's not like they're going to buy it continuously, year after year after year, unless they really feel bad from you. It's either they really care about the clothes, just like the rest of your customers, or they just feel bad about you and they're buying it. But at scale, if you're looking at the market at scale, most people, you would be able to know how much they love you by the customer cohort analysis, because this number doesn't lie. You would have banking apps. You would have all of these other apps. Like, have you ever seen an app or have you ever seen a service or a business that's like 2 stars or 3 stars, bad service, blah, 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 but their business is just booming like crazy? The reason why is because, yes, they might have bad customer support, shit like that, but if people are buying again and again and again, so maybe the customer cohort retention rate doesn't necessarily communicate customer love and that people are thrilled about you. At the very least, you know that if you have a high customer cohort retention rate, your brand is the best in its category. Pretty much, you are the best at giving exactly what people want, because if people had way better alternatives than you, they basically had no reason to buy from you, then this figure should be 1% or nothing. Because what would happen is that if people have better alternatives to go to, then they would go to that alternative and then they would never buy from you ever again, because maybe they would buy from you once, but then they would never buy from you again. So your retention rate would just plummet. If it's a metric that's high, like this is really high, like my client that's doing very well and it's on track to do multiple 7 figures and even 8 figures down the line. We are measuring this constantly. We are measuring this constantly. And the higher that this is, the better position we are. Alex Hormozi essentially says that businesses either trend to infinite LTV or to a lower and lower CAC, which is customer acquisition cost. And if you're selling air conditions, for example, if you're selling air conditioners, or if you're selling cars, or if you're selling yachts, or if you're selling whatever, if you're selling like super, super expensive stuff, you might have a case where someone buys from you once and they never want to see you again. If you're a construction company, if you're a builder, people will buy from you once, and unless that they have a repair or something like that, they will never probably contact you ever again. They will tell friends and family about you, so that's a word of mouth measure. But you don't have to look at the retention rate if you are someone with a very, very high ticket price and a very low likelihood that someone's going to buy from you ever again, because that's just how it is. They already have it. Ideally, you want it to last forever. But if for most businesses, if you have a reasonably sized average order value, somewhere in like $100, $200, anything honestly less than $1,000, like even with Apple, people buy again and again and again on Apple. So they buy the iPhone 7, iPhone 8, iPhone 9, iPhone 10. So it's pretty much their customer cohort rate is really, really high because people would buy again and again because they want to stay in touch with like the newest model pretty much. What if everyone just said, let's not buy a new iPhone ever again? If that happened, if no one bought any new Apple products, then Apple wouldn't be able to sustain itself just by acquiring new customers. The main reason why Apple is so successful is because it has a very loyal fan base of die-hard fans. And yes, maybe I converted from Android to Apple. So yeah, I'll admit I'm one of them now. But basically they have a very loyal fan base that just buys again and again, and that supports the whole business. And so as a fashion brand, what you want to aim for is you want to have a very, very high customer cohort retention rate. And in doing so, it's a representation that your brand is something that's loved. People buy from you not only once, not only in their first encounter, but they buy from you again and again. Because if you think about it, if you're a fashion brand where someone's buying again and again, you have now become part of their lives. And that's essentially what you want to do. You want to become a part of their life that gives them an insane amount of pride, of value, of happiness. That's really what you want your brand to do. And if your brand has a 1% retention rate or lower or something really lower than 2%, it might mean that you're not really resonating with customers and you need to go back to your product. You have to go back into how you engage with your customer. You have to go back to your branding. You basically have to stay in touch. You have to have a pulse on what your customers are feeling, because if your retention rate is lower than 2%, then that means you have not established product market fit. And this applies mainly for fashion brands or any business with repeat purchases. So that's what I learned from this. And so that's pretty much what I have to cover over here. We covered a lot. And so if you want to follow more things like this, if this video really provided you value, just subscribe, just follow. I'm not pressuring you. If you want to grow your fashion brand, if you want to grow your store, I'm going to be releasing a ton of new advice here. I've been doing this for like 6+ years at this point, and so I know how Meta operates and I know the best way to scale your store no matter what level you're at. And so if you're interested in content like this, just let me know and I'll see you next time.